President-elect Park Geun-hye, when she was a candidate, made a total of 252 campaign pledges to the Korean people. And the ones that got the most attention were devoted to welfare policies and the economy. Joining us today to talk about the road ahead is Lee Hye-hoon. She is the Supreme Council member of the Saenuri Party. Thank you very much for being here today.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you are regarded as a well-informed source within the Saenuri Party as a key figure of Geun-hye-nomics, as they've coined it now. In what way do you think, in what way is your philosophy connected with the philosophy of President-elect Park Geun-hye?
Okay, it is very hard to say I'm so well connected with her political philosophy in all the matters. But anyway, I can say I feel connected in some important matters. For example, Madam Park very respect, trust building, and promise keeping, and anti-corruption, and something like that, and economic democratization too, so and welfare too. So I really respect these values too. So I think this is very important to build up our trust and some sincerity in this country. A long time ago, when I was a student, I was very shocked to hear that President-elect at that time, he said that election promise is like left. Left, we need it before we crossing the river. In order to crossing the river, we need left. But after crossing the river, we don't need it anymore. We don't need it anymore. So it's like, promise election is like this. So to win the election, he did a lot of election promise. After winning the election, he doesn't need it anymore. I was very shocked. How can you say like that way? Very incredible. But I found that a lot of Korean politicians think that way.
And there's a concern, though, that Park Geun-hye might think the same way as well. I mean, already we're hearing word that she may be backtracking on some of these welfare policies. Is that not a huge concern right now?
No. I think it is not true. I mean, a lot of people criticize Madam Park. She promised something after election. She changed her word. No, it is not true. Exactly the Transition Committee announced is exactly the same as what Madam Park promised before the election. For example, basic old pension scheme and for disease groups will be paid by government is a little bit different from what people understood.
Different how?
Okay, they thought the government will pay for all the medical care costs for the 4 major disease groups, but it is not true. The government, Madam Park promised that government will pay for the essential cost, which is very necessary to care the disease. For example, cost for luxurious room and cost for express treatment, and something like that is not essential to care. To recover the disease. So in that case, it will not be covered. It will not be paid by the government. It was a misunderstanding.
Okay.
So it is exactly the same as before the election and after election.
And the basic elderly pension, 200,000 won to every elderly person, correct?
Okay. For example, it is very complicated. The pension system is very complicated. It could be very easily misunderstood by laymen without any expertise or more detailed information. For example, our national pension has, reform agenda. The long-time reform agenda is like this. We should reform the national pension system into, new one, which has 2 pillars. The first one is basic part, and the second one is income proportional part. For the basic part, it will be financed by government tax revenue, and it should give all the same money for the all people, regardless of income level or not. Okay.
Right.
So, and the other part, income proportional part, will be financed by pension premium. And it will pay according to their income. If higher income, then they will get higher benefit. If lower income, then he will get the lower benefit. So this is 2 part. We will move into this kind of new system, totally new system. Under this new system, the basic part pension benefit will be 200,000 won.
For every person over the age of 65 and older, right? You mentioned it's complicated, and I have no doubt that it is complicated. And you mentioned that a lot of the lay people may not completely understand sort of the pledges and the reality of the pledges. They may not understand the money issue as well. Some of the confusion may have come from the campaign. Park Geun-hye, during the campaign, mentioned that it was going to cost some 34 trillion won, or about $32.1 billion over 4 years to take care of those two welfare policies that you mentioned. In reality, though, the number is apparently double that. 77 trillion won is what's being talked about right now. Why this huge discrepancy in how much she said, her campaign said it was going to cost, and the figure coming out now? What's the reason?
It comes from the misunderstanding between people and the transition committee. For example, the government will provide free medical care for 4 types major disease. In that case, people understood government will pay everything for luxurious room, for express treatment, something like that. Everything will be paid by government. In that case, the expenditure will be bigger and bigger. But transition committee said that they didn't say like that. They will cover just only the cost which is necessary and which is essential, which is very urgent to care the disease. In that case, the expenditure will be a little bit smaller than people expected.
So, basically what I hear, it was a miscommunication. People didn't understand exactly what President-elect Park was promising at that time. But some would say, to play devil's advocate here, on the other side, and you mentioned this at the beginning, which I think is an interesting point, previous president-elects have made pledges, and they get into office, and they use that raft, as you put it, to get into office, and then they sink the raft, or they move on and basically hope the Korean people forget what they were promised during the campaign. I think a lot of people are worried about that in this scenario.
Yeah. We have so many people, they have different ideas. Some people say that you promised too much, you should lower your level, expectation level, something like that. And the other side of people say that, okay, you promised this much, then you should keep your promise. But what should we do? Yeah, okay.
So what should you do? That's a question.
Madam Park's stance is like this. She will keep the promise what she made. Okay, then she made a promise to pay the essential and very urgent cost for the 4 types of disease. Then she will do that. Then in that case, the money will not be big, than people expected.
Right. So the money will be more than people were told it would be. The amount of money to pay for these things. Correct?
Madam will give benefit to the people as exactly as what she promised.
Okay. And you've mentioned before, I think you're rather confident, right, that these things will come together. The question then becomes, where is the money coming from?
Where is money? Okay,
that's the major question.
Okay. Whenever she made a promise, she tried to do feasibility test first. Only if the plans pass the feasibility test, then she will make a promise. That's what she does. Okay, let me tell you, we did a feasibility test for this kind of over 200 election promises. And we got the total number of expenditure, 135 trillion Korean won. It could be financed by 2 ways. The 60% of the total expenditure will be financed by, cut existing expenditures, for example, unnecessary SOC expenditure or not very urgent expenditures or something like that, then we will get money from it. And less than 40% of the total expenditure will be financed by raising tax. But we promised that we will raise tax. But a lot of people said that you didn't. You should raise tax to finance all the expenditures. I don't know why they say, okay, actually we did promise we will raise tax, but we will not raise tax rate. When we raise tax, we have 2 ways. First one is raising tax rate. And the second part is, widening tax base. We will try to widening tax base. The first example will be underground economy. We will, find who, avoids tax,
Right.
and then we will pay.
Force them to pay taxes.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah. And the second part is like this. Under the current our taxation law, some of people did not pay tax, proper tax. For example, if you will get 100,000 won as a salary, then you should pay all the tax before you get the money. But if you earn the money from the tax, stock trading, then in that case, even though you earn billions of, hundreds of billions, too many, very, very much big money, but in that case you will not pay, because if you are not major shareholder of listing company, okay, then it is unfair. So we will try to levy new capital gains tax. In that case, we introduce a new tax system.
So these two things will eventually add up to 134.5 trillion
exactly.
won. There are plenty of people who disagree with you, respectfully, of course.
Yeah.
Most people say that government bonds are going to have to be issued at some point to pay for these things.
It is not true.
Why?
I heard news. Okay, we plan to issue new bond, national bond, to finance this kind of welfare expenditures. I was very shocked. We didn't never discuss it. I'm a member of Supreme Council of Ruling Party. We never discussed it, but they said we did it. It's not true.
I think it's coming from outside the party as well, inside as well. There are people within your own party who say government bonds are going to have to be issued. There are people outside of the party who say you're going to have no choice but to do it if you want to pay for these things. You're saying absolutely no, that's not going to happen.
Okay, how about this? Okay, we didn't start it yet. Madam Park didn't take office yet. Before she takes office, everybody said that, oh, you cannot do that. You should issue new bond. I think it is not fair. Okay, let's wait and see. After 1 month, 2 months and half year, then her plan is not working. Then we can say, let's find another way.
And you bring up a good point, because I think some people say, this is not fair. This is unprecedented that she's getting so much heat right now. We're 3 days now before she's inaugurated, and already her plans are being trashed and ridiculed, and basically people saying it's not going to work out. Is it unfair? And you say it is unfair, but why? What is the reason, do you think, that this is happening now to her?
Okay, we say our plan will work, but another people criticize that your plan will not work, but nobody knows it will work or not. Let's do it, and then let's see.
Wait and see what's going to happen. But again, playing devil's advocate, the other side would say, look, now is the perfect time to hold President-elect Park's feet to the fire and her party's feet to the fire, because she's taking office in a few days. Let's make sure that they're held accountable for what they pledged and what they promised. Is that not fair to hold you accountable?
Okay. We will promise, we will announce what is our promise exactly when she start her office. Okay, she will do that.
So wait until she takes office. Wait until she's had some time in power to make these changes and see how they play out. That would be what you would say to the other side there. Let's talk about the economy a little bit, and economic democratization, the key word of the campaign last year, of course. The question then during the campaign and the question now remains, democratizing the economy and sort of pinpointing the chaebol, really the engine of this economy, is now the right time to do that, considering that the growth forecast is 2% right now. The worldwide economy is still sort of trying to crawl out of this mess that it's been in. Is now the right time to do that?
No, I don't agree with that, because one of the main reasons behind the economic crisis is related to the jobless problem. Because of that, we need to solve this problem first. in order to make our economy grow more balanced way and more sustainable way.
Solving the problem of balancing, leveling the playing field.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. For example, in 1970s and 80s, we have a very good trickle-down effect. In that case, if we support exporting companies, then they will make money on the global market, and that money goes to the small and medium-sized enterprises and workers. It is very good circulation. In that case, growth means distribution as well. But now, it is not true anymore. The trickle-down effect doesn't exist anymore. Why it doesn't exist anymore? Because of chaebol unlawful behaviors and antitrust actions and some foul plays. A lot of chaebol's problem cause this kind of trickle-down effect, block. Okay, so we need to make it repair first. For example, it's kind of economic boiler repair.
You've mentioned this before. You've compared economic democratization to boiler repair, and it's a very interesting comparison. Please tell us about that.
Okay, polarization block. Polarization means that the efficient channeling from the prime contractors to subcontractors doesn't work anymore. Some block here. Then we should get rid of this kind of block. Then we will support growth. Then the growth will give warmth to everybody in the economy, SMEs and workers, something like that. So without this kind of repair, if we support export growth, then the chaebols get growing. The SMEs and workers will not grow anymore. The polarization will be worsen and worsen.
So in this metaphor, spreading the warmth, essentially, fixing the boiler where it's broken, and then spreading the warmth to everybody.
Yes.
I'm curious, you're a leader in your party. The Saenuri Party is not really well known for being the welfare party. I do wonder if people within your own party are pushing back a little bit on these ideas that you're bringing up today.
Okay.
What are they saying to you?
Okay. Because of our last 10 and 15 years experience made us, a little bit go further into the welfare direction. 1997, we have economic crisis, and that time we got, some rescue money from the IMF. And at that time, IMF required us to implement a lot of, new liberal economic programs.
Right.
Yeah. After that, 15 years has passed. Our economy has more and more polarization. The wealthy people get richer and richer. Then poor people get poor and poor. We have a serious problem here. So that's why we need to pay more attention to the welfare programs.
And now is the time to do that.
Yes. If we don't do that now, then we cannot take off the sustainable and balanced economic growth anymore.
We talked about the economy a little bit. I do wonder, though, if the economy is not going to throw a huge monkey wrench into all of these plans that Park Geun-hye has laid out. All things being considered, it's highly likely that President-elect Park is going to take office with a deficit. How big a role does the economy play into all of these plans, and how big a monkey wrench could it be?
But welfare is not wasted at all. A lot of people, some people who, support that idea, that theory, argues that welfare is kind of waste. Welfare is not waste. Welfare supports the economic growth. So we don't need to think that way.
So, and again, this goes back to the money. You're confident. You're confident that the money is going to be there to make these changes and put these reforms into place.
Frankly speaking, I'm not 100% confident, but I expect that money will be, roughly speaking, enough.
And I guess the other conversation being had right now is that the reform, welfare reform might actually change from being a universal reform to a more targeted reform. Say, for instance, taking that 200,000 won or $182 roughly per elderly person for every elderly person, and only giving it to those that really need it. Is that something that could happen in the months to come, do you think?
Okay, what Madam Park promised the people the election is like this. She promised that she will give, 200,000 won to every elderly people. It is true, but she didn't say that right now in this year. It will take time.
Okay.
Yeah. As I told you, we need, national pension scheme reform first. Okay?
Right.
Reform takes always time.
Takes time.
Yeah. After that reform has done, then we can give, promise the money.
And that is something perhaps that people need to keep in mind when they're sort of pressuring you and pressuring President-elect Park, that these things do take time. We're talking about a complicated issue, or complicated issues, many of them, of course, so it will take time. How patient, though, should the Korean people be with
they
this?
are not patient. I'm Korean too.
I think we know
I'm
this,
not
yes.
patient, yes,
Sure.
yes.
So how patient should they be? How much time should they realistically expect to wait for these things to take
That's
place?
why, we are worrying about, 5 years ago, we have election. Nobody talk about the, election promises. At that time, everybody think election promises will be like left. But now, a lot of people expect Madam Park will keep her promise.
And that's a positive change.
Yes, a positive change. But it is very good. A very big obstacle.
Sure.
Ahead of her.
Yeah. But if they were to corner you and say, how long should we wait? How long should we be patient?
Yes,
are you going to tell them, 1 year or 2 years? How long is this going to take?
Okay. Every presidential candidate gave promise more than several hundreds, right? It means that he will do in 5 years term. But now Korean people said you should do it everything in 1 year, at first year.
Sure.
Oh God, it's impossible.
We are running out of time, but I do want to give you an opportunity to add anything else to our viewers who may be watching. We're 3 days away from Inauguration Day.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything to our viewers?
Just I would like to say we will do our best to try keep the promise all we had, but please have a patience, please.
They will certainly be watching over the next few years, and we will as well. Hopefully we'll have you back in a few months and we can give you a progress report and see how you were doing. Lee Hye-hoon, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And thank you as always for watching. We'll see you next week after 10.